The collapse in discipline and accountability among some Reform UK councillors who were elected in this landslide in the local elections is staggering. The number of Reform UK councillors who have quit is is simply mind numbing. I think I counted, I spoke to somebody who counted 38. The internet seems to record only about 16. I think the number is significantly higher than 16. And in particular, this principle that when elected officers, there's now a case of an elected officer who is a Reform UK councillor, county councillor, who now faces criminal charges. There should be a more robust mechanism for deputies or substitutes to take over their duties temporarily while they are facing this legal problem. It's not about suspending their right to a fair trial. It's about ensuring the right of constituents to a proper representative during this period that when their elected representative is facing trial. And we've seen it in Westminster, in the case most recently of David Amesbury, the man who hit his constituents, or one constituent multiple times, rather than many constituents just once. It's not about assuming guilt or innocence, it's about protecting the public interest, ensuring representation, and maintaining trust in local democracy. So let's begin by addressing the most prominent case in the news today, which is Amanda Clare, known as Mandy Clare, in Reform UK. She's a Reform UK councillor, Mandy, representing Winsford Dean ward in Cheshire West and Cheshire Council. Not so far, actually, from the place where Mike Amesbury lashed out at his constituent, Cheshire. I can't imagine that Cheshire is the reason why all these things go wrong. But she's been charged with assault and criminal damage after an incident at Winsford Pride. Police say they were called to a disturbance on Saturday, the 28th of June, the other day, at around 4:30 p.m. Miss Clare was arrested at the scene and later charged. She's been bailed and is due to appear before Crewe Magistrates Court on the 8th of August. Cheshire Police and the Crown Prosecution Service have issued a clear statement reminding everyone that criminal proceedings are live and that she has the right to a fair trial, and that commentary which might prejudice proceedings must be avoided. So please be careful about what sort of comments you leave below. I will absolutely respect that call. I make no comment at all about the facts of the incident or her culpability. She must have the full protection of the presumption of innocence. But this case is not occurring in isolation. Reform UK has seen other councillors quitting or falling into trouble soon after election. Rob Howard, who became the council leader in Thurrock, stood down after only 6 weeks. Another Reform councillor nearly joined Labour shortly after being elected. There have been resignations, defections and disarray in council groups that were elected on a promise of discipline and voter respect. And it's embarrassing for a party. It's an embarrassing pattern for a party that claims to speak for ordinary people. But more importantly, it exposes a structural flaw in our local government system. And this is the real issue that I want to highlight. When an elected representative faces serious criminal charges, their ability to serve their constituents is compromised. They may be required to attend court dates, they may be constrained by bail conditions, they may be distracted, stressed, or advised to avoid public appearances. Even if they're completely innocent, this process itself may make them effectively unavailable. And yet our councils offer no formal mechanism for temporarily replacing them or assigning a deputy to carry their casework and their votes. And the same is true of the government and of Westminster, of MPs elected to Westminster. This is a democratic failing, and the public should not be punished with unrepresentative or ineffective government simply because their councillor or their MP is in legal limbo. And I would argue a straightforward constitutional principle. When a councillor or an MP is formally charged with a serious criminal offence, a deputy should be designated to take over their official duties for the duration of the proceedings. And this should not imply guilt or remove their title. It should be a neutral, automatic safeguard. The councillor or MP would remain in post with pay and rights intact unless and until convicted, but the public's business would not be neglected. And we have models for this in other fields. For example, local councils often have deputy chairs, mayors, or committee substitutes, court-appointed deputies for those who lose capacity. Legislatures sometimes allow proxy voting during illness or parental leave. And this reform would simply adapt existing practices to a situation that arises now too often to the detriment of voters. Amanda Clare is entitled to her day in court and the full protection of the presumption of innocence. But while these proceedings continue, the people of Winsford Dean are entitled to full and effective representation by their elected member. And we must stop treating these situations as personal embarrassments for a party and start treating them as constitutional problems for our democracy. It's time we put the voters first and ensure that every seat at council and every voice in Parliament remains active, accountable and effective, even when its elected occupant is serious or is facing serious legal jeopardy. This is not a presumption of guilt, it's a presumption of respect for the people, and it ought to be taken seriously.